Nope, we are
We're back. We're CMA Live. Thank you so much for your patience. We had a brief technical difficulty, which, by the way, this is what happens in live streaming
TV
content. Anything can happen. Craig and I just had a little pizza party. I'm so sorry that you missed it. So I just wanted to go back to, we were talking about curriculum in preschool programming, how you marry social, emotional, and curriculum. And I think one thing that you had mentioned to me is at the end of the day, like, you're working with these incredible scientists with expertise in their field. So what is that?
So having a science advisor is probably the coolest part of making a curriculum show, because both of those subjects are things I love, space, and I love dinosaurs. And as a kid, I loved dinosaurs. And I also just the experience of raising a boy who loved dinosaurs, that like locked it in for me. I'm like, look at this. There's something universal about why are dinosaurs so fun for kids? And I actually think
girls love dinosaurs
and girls too.
I love dinosaurs
we strove to make it a gender balanced boy show and girl show. The cast is half girl characters and half boy characters. But I just had this theory that little kids love that dinosaurs were these huge, scary monsters, and in their play with their toy versions, they're masters of those monsters.
The universe.
And the same with trains. Trains to a little kid are like giant, scary, loud. But when you're playing with trains, you're the master of that world. So I just felt like that aspect of play would be really cool. And then we needed to have legitimate science.
Yeah.
And so it's just what you do. You hook up with a science advisor, in the case of Dinosaur Train, Dr. Scott Sampson, the paleontologist, who's now Dr. Scott on our show, and a TV star. When you bring Scott to a live event with kids, they mob him and they run right past me. I don't know. They don't care how you create a show. They just want to meet Dr. Scott, the paleontologist. And the same thing has happened for Amy Meinzer, our astronomer on Ready, Jet, Go, which thrills me because I already had that experience with Scott. And I promised Amy, I said, you wait, a few months into this thing being on the air, the kids are going to mob you. You'll be talking to kids for the rest of your life. You might be in an airport and a kid might be like, are you Amy Meinzer? And so on. So they're both great. It's like, for me, I loved watching both of them kind of become TV personalities. It's been really fun. I love, we shoot those interstitials with both characters. We take them on the road and have them talking about stuff. And
the dialogue really goes back and forth. Like, they have ideas based on scientific concepts that spark storytelling. And then oftentimes you're like, here's the story. What are we going to match with that? So I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of my job working at preschool.
They're like your sounding board. You're like, well, what if we did a story about this? And they tell you what the science is behind it. The thing that's great is both of those areas are areas that are exploding. There's tons of new scientific discoveries being made in both of those fields. In astronomy, they're discovering more and more stars with planets around them. It's crazy. And that, we just sent InSight to Mars like 2 days ago.
I love it.
So we're in a really exciting time for space exploration. And the paleontologist, Scott, likes to dig every year. He's now an important guy. He runs Science World in Vancouver.
Yeah.
He's the head of that natural history museum up there. But Scott loves, in the summer, he likes to go to the Badlands and dig up dinosaurs.
It's amazing. And I think that's what's really cool about preschool TV, too, is that often whatever your preschool shows, like Dinosaur Train, Ready, Jet, Go, are kids at home, whether they're 2, 3, 4, 5. It's their first experience, their first, favorite TV show. And it's basically, as you said, they're sponges, but I think it's basically a first interaction with this type of curriculum where that could be their first touch point of like, oh my God, I now love space because I learned this, and it's just the very beginning of their journey.
We had a really, and both shows were perfect vehicles for this idea. We had this really important goal to make kids develop a connection with nature in both shows. The Ready Jet goes a little more abstract and kind of spacey, because it was our knowledge that once we started the space program and got into space, and we made satellites that turned their cameras back on Earth, we learned way more about the Earth than we'd ever known before. So that's our mission. Like, look, we keep telling stories like that over and over again, where the kids are out in space and they're looking back at Earth, sweet Earth, and they're like, oh my God, it's the greatest. And look, there's nothing else that we can live on. And so it makes kids into environmentalists.
It does. Yeah, I love that. And I think that, you're getting at this idea that basically the kids are sitting down, they're watching the show, they're entertained by it, they're watching a TV screen or an iPad or a phone, but then afterwards you really hope that they're being inspired by something that they've learned, and that it's a
little ironic because they're watching it on a device, or they're watching it on TV, which everybody thinks, oh, that's not good. But the goal is always like, something that they saw
to inspire them.
It inspires them, and they go
to learn more.
I want to go dig a hole in the backyard.
Exactly.
And we tell them to. We had an initiative in season 2 of Dinosaur Train called Get Into Nature, where we just were trying, based on what Scott was writing about in his books, and what we were talking about was like, how do we get kids, as soon as the show's over, to go like, let's go. I'm going to go study a leaf up close. I'm going to go out. And just gonna get my hands in the dirt. And so we tried. We made up songs about it. We made episode after episode about it. So hopefully that had an effect. That's the kind of thing you can only hope that parents will write in and say, my kid won't stop digging in the backyard. He thinks he's gonna find a fossil.
I love that. We have a couple of other really great questions from CMA members, so I want to make sure to get to them. Kim D'Amato asks, any advice for people who are just starting out in the industry? They don't really know anyone in the industry yet, and they want to create their own show. So a lot of what we're talking about, I think we're kind of learning that a lot of pitching really comes from making connections, making friendships. We said it's very collaborative to work in TV. But what advice would you have for someone who's just starting out, and it may not even be about pitching, but just about
I think any work that you can get, any starting level job that you can get in the business is great, because then you're in and you make friends, and you're right, Megan, it's about connections. It's about, I could say there's probably 4 people, I count them on one hand, that because I met them and we hooked up and became friends and worked together, everything else followed. I met Paul Germain, who hooked me up with Nickelodeon and Pasky Chupo at Rugrats. Gabor Chupo, who the owner of that company, gave me that job to be a story editor on Rugrats before I'd ever written scripts before. So people taking a chance on me, getting you that first job that leads to everything else. It's like, man, just, I guess, be good at meeting people. I tell people to be, students, people who are drawing or writing, and they're kind of, if they're feeling kind of like socially awkward, work on that part. Work on the meeting and hanging out with people stuff.
Because I know, for one, I hate schmoozing, and I know you advise learn how to schmooze, but it's really good, and I don't think thinking about it in the way of schmoozing, but for someone who's sort of a shy, introverted creator.
Which, a lot of people in this business are.
That's true. You were saying, you were kind of creating on your own and had these ideas that were percolating in your mind. And then I think simultaneously, just over the years, I think you can see how friendly Craig is. I'm not saying everyone hit up Craig Bartlett, but I think there are a lot of people who've been working in the industry that would be very happy to have an informational, just a conversation with someone who's interested. And
those
don't
first
be
meetings
afraid.
was just meet someone and just to talk about just to have a conversation. You feel better. You've gotten a couple meetings behind you, and you're not as nervous.
I think it's like a muscle.
Yeah.
So the more you kind of practice, and I also wanted to. This is sort of kind of going back to the beginning of being a child. Sarah C., who's a CMA member, mentioned that you have an incredible talent to immerse adult viewers in what it feels like to be a kid again. I totally agree, but also for children to feel connected to stories as well. So I wanted to go back to this idea of the pitch process and connect it all together. When you're sitting down and thinking of an overall idea for a TV show, for an episodic script, for writing a song, and it's just Craig versus the blank page. I know for me, I'm just with and paralyzing fear. But what do you do? How do you tackle that?
How do you get your first 100 stories behind you?
What are you inspired by?
I think that it started with really honestly trying to understand what it was like to be a kid. I thought I would make my first cartoon character was Arnold, and I thought I want a story about a small kid who is kind of sensitive and daydreams, because all that stuff was the way I was.
Yeah.
And then just make it be about what it really feels like to be a kid. So that's how I started in my storytelling. And I would just say that luckily I had the Rugrats experience to write those shows with Paul for that first season of Rugrats. That really helped me get a few stories behind me.
Yeah.
I'd written a few, and now I saw them get made. I'm like, oh, thank God. Now I'm not going to be as precious on the next one. And every one that I made after that, then I got Arnold picked up, and I wrote, I don't know, 40 of those 200 stories or so, and co-wrote with other people and stuff. And just the idea was there's another one down, and being on that pipeline where you just got to go and go.
Yeah.
And deadlines always, it's like,
well, like
this script's going to be about 16 pages long, and then I'm on to the next one. And we're totally that way still. So I feel like that sheer volume of getting on that horse and just keep going makes it where I don't worry about writer's block anymore.
Yeah.
It's just too many things
I
gotta
think
do.
I'm also hearing, like, if the opportunity presents itself, whether that's a pitch meeting, that you just have to go for it. I love Ray Bradbury. So I love this Ray Bradbury quote that I once heard that was basically like, jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. I don't know if that's good advice. I love it.
Quote.
And I think I'm
build
hearing,
your wings on the way down,
if you have a meeting, if you meet someone, like, basically you sometimes just have to go for it.
Yeah, right. It's like
don't overthink it.
It's like, yeah, exactly. The windows that came along for me were great. I was really lucky. I got my first job in Portland.
Like,
it was
chance, magic,
timing. Lucky. But then I just was like, I jumped all over that stuff and was just like, showed up every day like, please don't fire me. I'll be so good, I promise, And then when I got to LA, I think I was getting a little more confident about what I was doing, but I still didn't really know the business. And so the Rugrats opportunity, of course, you get a chance to be a story editor, to jump in there and do it.
I love that.
And so all the opportunities that came along, it's partly that you were there at the right place at the right time, but also that you were prepared to just jump in.
Yeah.
So you add preparation, be ready.
Yeah.
And when you see an opportunity, just jump.
That's great. We're going to go to the CMA member live submitted questions in just a moment, but I just had a couple quick questions for you. So I have some quick fire questions that speaking of not overthinking things, these are just fun. We're gonna,
short.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yes. So if you could be in any job other than animation, what would you be doing?
Ooh, like, I don't know, like sailing at sea or
you'd probably be astronaut.
Yeah. Architect,
I love it. Yeah, still like a builder.
Yeah, making stuff. It has to be still making. There's a cool analogy when we started making Hey Arnold at the current Nickelodeon studio. Yeah. They put us in that made-over space. It was a really cool, old kind of warehousey building that they modernized and put us in. And I asked the manager, what was this building before? He said, they used to make boats here.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, that's a perfect analogy. They ordered 20 more boats, and each one's got to float. Some are going to be better than others, but they all coming down the line, and you got to finish each boat. And I thought, that's just right. We're just sitting here building boats, man.
I love that. It's so true. That's kind of beautiful.
I still think
analogy.
That way.
Yeah, and then some of them have an anchor that
some are like
down and
some aren't very good.
Yeah, like
some are kind of ugly.
The next one.
But here comes the next one.
What album are you listening to the most right now?
Oh, like record?
Yeah, like a record.
Oh man, I got hooked for a while on Hamilton.
Oh, cool.
It was so good.
I haven't even seen that, but I've heard the record. Yeah.
I after seeing it at the Pantages, I was just like, I'm getting that, and I'm just gonna play it. So I've kind of like binged on Hamilton for a while.
It's one of those things when you listen to it over and over, you get something new out of the lyrics each time.
I gotta say too, for a work of art, let's just talk about Hamilton. Lin-Manuel comes along, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of editing and a lot of outside influence. He just makes this sort of this wonderful thing full of killer songs and great rhymes, and as a single piece of art, Hamilton's. That pretty much was my favorite thing for the last couple of years.
Oh, I love that. It's a lot of people, and well deserved.
Yeah.
What book are you currently reading or listening to?
I'm reading. I like to read analog books still. I still love to go get books, and they sit in stacks and all over my house. I'm currently reading a really cool book that someone gave me called Daily Rituals, and I don't remember the name of the author.
Is this fiction or nonfiction?
It's nonfiction. The guy, I like nonfiction, by the way. I love histories. I love reading about. I read Hamilton after I saw the play. But like I love histories. I love histories of Americans. I love histories of explorers, and this book, Daily Rituals, looks at about, I'm not kidding, 300 or 400 artists, writers, musicians, poets, and it said how did they get their work done? Because that's that question, like cool. How do you face the blank page? Yeah. It's terrific and funny. Like some people had hilarious daily rituals. Are you
taking on anyone's suggested rituals?
I've actually copied down my favorites, and I thought I would try to kind of make a little mashup of my favorite rituals and kind of create my own. A lot of people are morning people and they get that work done. Like the key work of each day is done by lunchtime. A lot of people in the last several hundred years. Yeah, wake up early, kind of hit it, work hard before you're tired. Mind. Yep. Hilarious the things people, coffee, booze, cigarettes, a lot of stuff. Some of them were total addicts, and so their life was a mess. Others, they're just like super eccentric.
I love that. Okay,
and it's super daily rituals. I forget the name of the author. I can't remember, but I loved it, and I think I recommend it to any creative person. Like, look, man, we're trying to get. This is the point about doing it over and over again for a career.
That's true. It's like a muscle.
Being an animator, making TV, man, you're just on this stuff for years.
Yeah.
So you better have a good daily ritual.
Yeah. I might know the answer to this, but what is your favorite animated feature film?
Oh, animated feature film. Oh, I have so many. I love the work of Miyazaki.
But I didn't know what
really
your favorite
do. I remember when I went to see.
Favorite?
Well, I saw Totoro. That was the first one I saw, and it really made an impression on me because it's such a simple, beautiful tale, and not much happens. May gets lost.
Yeah.
She's confused about where her mom is and if her mom's okay. So she runs cross country, and then for a while they're afraid she drowned in a canal. That's the only heavy thing. I mean, that's heavy.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that happens in this story. Otherwise, about a magical bunch of creatures. The pacing. I taught a storyboard class, and it was just a long time ago, 15 years ago, and I showed them examples of my favorite films. The Totoro scene from when the frog is in the rain and the girls are waiting for their dad to come, to all that magic and the cat bus coming, and Totoro getting on the cat bus and going away, ends with the frog again, and the frog goes like, and I said, from frog to frog, this is the coolest. You couldn't pitch it. It's so good. Miyazaki doesn't seem to have to pitch his stories. He makes these fabulous stories.
Well, I think it it's variety of storytelling, pacing, which I think is very beautiful and different. A wonderful eye
for the small things, and the art of the Miyazaki features is just brilliant. It just gets better.
That. Okay.
The latest ones are more beautiful than the first. So he's been on a path of making beautiful stuff.
So we have to check that out for those who haven't seen it. So these are one-word answers, and then we're going to jump to our CMA questions.
Okay.
Chocolate or cotton candy?
Chocolate.
Okay, well, that is a one-word answer. I guess it could have been two. Magic or science?
Science.
You don't have to be so downtrodden about it. Like, science!
Well, I mean, if I said magic, it would be like, hey!
There's magic in science.
There is magic in science.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Wow. Oh, man. I'm going to go with Trek.
Yes, me too. If you could be any Muppet, which one would you be?
Oh, well, I love Kermit. But,
you're a Kermit.
Yeah, I guess I'm a kind of a Kermit.
So I'm not being rude and going on my phone. I'm actually live going onto my email, and I am loading
She's so
up.
21st century.
Who am I? This is so unlike me. So we're going to jump to your questions that you have been patiently inputting. So we have, what starting level jobs in the industry are good starting points? Because I think you can kind of get any job, but
that's a great question. I think that if you just know that you can crush it drawing, you can draw, you feel like you know how to do what you can see on TV, then by all means be an artist and try to get right in there and get that first storyboard job, or they'll give you a storyboard cleanup job, or even drawing props or background. All those are things, if you can draw, go for it. if you're not so sure about your drawing talent, but you love cartoon making and you want to be in an animation world, try for PA, for production assistant. PA jobs are great. They can be just about production. Like you just learn how the chain of command, the pipeline works. I've known more PAs than I could count on one hand who are now fabulous producers out there, because I remember when they were started in their first job, they just hung in there and they went all the way to the top. So PA job is a killer job. And what's great is you can be an art PA and you can work on just Xeroxing the layouts and kind of getting in the art and work your way into that. I've known PAs who were art PAs who started doing layouts and all of a sudden now they were background designers and they went to the top. So PA.
Love it. Yeah, I agree with that. Here's our second question. Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry that I did not credit Nestle Hogue. I apologize.
I know her.
Oh, am I saying the last name right?
That's her like screen name.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, she
her handle, yeah.
She does killer Arnold fan art.
Yay!
And she had some designs in that Arnold T-shirt contest recently that were amazing.
I love that.
So hi.
Hi.
Wherever you are.
This is from Kira Martin. So, okay, gotta go back to, come on, everybody loves Helga. Where did the inspiration from Helga come from? And then this is also important because just talking about Helga's background, was it your initial mission to create a on-screen representation for kids, particularly young girls, of basically Helga being in an abusive or neglectful households? You were reflecting real life there.
We did, yes. We ultimately were trying very hard to, I was trying to create sympathy for Helga.
Yeah.
I thought, she's a bully, she's mean, she's brittle, and sarcastic, it's cruel to everyone. How can we care about this person? And she was a really important character because she's Arnold's soulmate. She's his secret love. And at some point, the two of them were going to get together, which, you can see was about 20 years in the making. And so that was a long arc of how to make kids love Helga while because I think she's hilarious. She's fun. She's kicks ass. She's the toughest kid in the whole fourth grade. She can beat up Harold for crying out. So Helga's admirable, but like, how can we love her? And I thought, okay, how about if her family's terrible and she's like the passed over neglected child and has never been truly loved or cared for? That'll make you go, wow, I'm on her team. She's somehow made a reality for herself with her own just like pure like spirit and strength.
I love that.
So that, Helga, we started by designing her family. First we started with, here she is, she's a bully. Yep. And then we started making the show and went, well, she's got to be more than just a bully.
But it's really important for kids at home who would like recognize that behavior.
Yeah. A lot of people have, since the show got made, have reached out to me and said, I want you to know I had a terrible childhood.
Yeah, or like Arnold.
I watched Hey Arnold, and it gave me some kind of strength that Helga can survive. I guess I can. My parents certainly aren't as terrible as hers. Or maybe they are. Yeah. But like, yeah, Hey Arnold is about a kid looking at the world and going, it's not perfect. What can I do about it?
Yes,
and Arnold sets an example of being really, he's very, very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very funny show, but it does have these dramatic themes in it, and I think, it's
it has a lot of melancholy and sadness.
But in a great way, and there should be more shows like that now. Thank you very much. I forgot if I said that was Kira Martin's question, so thank you, Kira. This is from 100, The Ghost. How much time passed? This is so specific. I love it. We're getting our specific questions. How much time passed between the end of the San Lorenzo trip, aka the kiss, and the first day of 6th grade? Did Arnold and Helga interact during that time, and if so, in what way?
Oh, what a cool question. Well, that was cool because when I pitched the Jungle movie, I said, first of all, how about we start it like a year has passed since the series, 15 years ago, when the last episode played. Where are we now? It's like now they're ending 5th grade, going into summer, and I was like, well, let's give them about a week to enter the contest and find out that they're going, and then they must be leaving sometime in June, and then what? Like a week passes, that whole adventure, and then they're back. So, you know, it's only in the middle of summer and they're back, and you're right, several weeks have gone by. And I remember we were trying so hard to make it all in a tight 2-hour story that I decided to have him wake up, run downstairs. I thought it'd be really funny if his parents didn't know it was the first day of school. And then he says, "Did you have that dream again that you never found us?" And he's like, "Yeah, the same dream I've been having all summer." So that's your answer. Wow, Arnold's just kind of PTSD, and he keeps waking up thinking, "Oh no, my parents, was that a dream?" And running down to see them in person. So it's very dear, like Arnold kind of, he can't quite even believe they're home. And then what happened in that summer? I don't know, man. I mean, we'd have to do a season 6 to find out. You know, the idea would be we would make more Hey Arnolds, and I would do all kinds of stories that kind of filled in the blanks.
And we have one final question. Thank you so much, Lynn Keston-Sessler.
Hi, Lynn. Lynn's on.
I hope I'm reading this correctly. Basically, what advice do you have after you make the pitch, it goes into development, you're making the show? Like, what is your advice for and I think this could be applied to whether you're in production. The question is, like, how do you get to a home run with your show, which is like, I don't know how to get the golden ticket. But I think can be applied to actually making a pitch, making a show, putting together any project. Like, how do you throw yourself into it and make it a home run?
You know, my
lawyer
told me. I remember when I started Dinosaur Train, I'd had a kind of a couple years that were sort of downtime. Nothing was going on in my development. I couldn't get something sold, and I was writing some spec movies and kind of trying to develop ideas and kind of getting nowhere. And so I had a studio here in Glendale that I went to every day to do my work, and I kind of gotten into that routine. I remember telling my lawyer, "Wow, we're starting up on Dinosaur Train. I'm actually going to go in and work every day. That's new. Wow, back to the office." And I was sort of saying a little bit sad about leaving my sort of my own little world behind. And she said, "Here's my advice to you: get in there early, be the first one there and the last one to go, and at least for the first 6 months or a long time, really establish with everybody that you're the one who's there when they get there and still there working when you leave."
As a leader.
And it'll establish that you're the one that's always there. You're the one that if there's a question, you're the one that has the answer. And once that's been established, and then you can kind of relax a little. But establish for everybody that you're just like, "Man, I'm living for this thing." And this is the way I felt about Hey Arnold and Dinosaur Train and Jet. When I started them and I was in production and we were starting 1 million stories and everything was starting, I was like my life. I was just living for those shows. So that's probably the best advice. Just get there. Get there and work your ass off.
Absolutely. Well, no, it's really important. And I think also for those who are working under a creator and executive producer, when you see someone that cares that much and that they are basically setting the tone for the whole show and they're passionate and they care about
you're trying to kind of like trying to have that enthusiasm for the material like rub off on everybody.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And I will say we're going to we're reaching the conclusion of our event. Thank you so much for your patience with the technical difficulties, and we're a couple minutes over. But I wanted to say, just working with you, it is incredibly wonderful to have someone who's been in the industry, moved out to LA, I think you said 1987, and through all these years, it's so easy to become jaded, and you have an insatiable curiosity for life and just a passion for all things creative, and there's highs and lows as in any career. So thank you for letting that rub off on us and all of our members today. I just want to say thanks for tuning in. Special thanks to all CMA members and members online who submitted questions. Sign up for CMA membership today for continued access to these talks. Stay tuned for an announcement about our big CMA live event this summer. Thanks so much. Thank you, Craig.
Bye. Thanks, Megan.
Bye.